Came a knocking on my door one night around 6 o'clock. I had no invitation, nobody to job. I opened up the door and to my surprise there was a bright and shiny man with these piercing eyes. He said, "Sonny, you've been living your life with ease. Time to get back to work, son, get back on your feet." He left on that note without gloves or coat, even though the sky was gray. There came a knocking on my door, and I don't even know what for. After he left that night, I didn't think twice, didn't stress, didn't worry, didn't leave on a light, no. I thought it was a dream cause there was no explanation why a man would show up to give me that brief exhortation. Thinking about the words that this man had said, started searching for some meaning as they raced around my head. Then I stopped with the start at the thought of repentance, and this is where I started to learn my lesson. So many ways, started working, started earning, got a job, making minimum wage. Now I praise the Lord for the life that he gave, for the pain and all the suffering, for my soul that he saved. Now I'm walking around, talking aloud, preaching the town. I don't know if they'll listen, but I won't step down now. Whoa, there came a knocking on my door. Wake up call for my life to begin. Thought I was doing fine, turns out I was drowning. Knocking on my door. Oh, there came a knocking on my door. Knocking on my door. Knocking on my door.
Hey, happy Friday, fellas. Great to have you with us today as we talk manhood, wisdom, and in particular, today we're going to talk about some things regarding money. Hey, Lewis, good to have you with us there. So, I don't know about you, but it seems to me like Christians have an awkward relationship with money. Does that ring true for you? It's sort of this secretive thing. And if you have money, there's sort of an apologetic mindset that you're supposed to have. And if you don't have money, of course, there's temptation to envy and that kind of thing. Dale, I know your job requires you to be involved with other people's money. As you interact with Christians, do you sense that? Lewis says he agrees. I'm not sure exactly why that is, but I remember, for 25 years I was a professional pastor in a traditional model church, and so we talked a lot about church budget and those kind of things. But then anytime that we discussed giving from the church, it was just always this strange awkwardness. And like the elders were protective about how much they were making. And it's not like it was hard to figure out. I mean, a lot of our guys were military and we knew what ranks they had. And around here, if you're retired military with a certain security clearance, experience, and so on, there are civil service jobs you can get that the salaries for those positions are kind of known. So it's not like this was hard. We had one guy that had made a lot of money in real estate. It was obvious to everybody, and yet there was just this I don't know, strange dynamic that we're so careful with it. I read the New Testament, for example, and I don't see that. Yes, we have Jesus saying, don't let your right hand know what your left hand is doing. And we interpret that to mean nobody is supposed to know anything about anybody's money, financial situation, giving, any of that. And yet that's not how we see it play out. It seems like with Ananias and Sapphira, everybody knew how much everybody was giving. Right? You walked in with a bag and see, I sold my house. Here's a bag of gold. Use it. People knew that, and you could see how big their bags of gold were, that kind of thing. So, yes, Paul warns the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil, but it's good to read the Bible more than once, because that's not the only thing the scripture has to say about money. Dale says, definitely. There's often a sense that piety and wealth are automatically at odds. Extra ties or something are required to assuage guilt. Yeah, there's sense of guilt and obligation. And if you're wealthy, you're probably greedy and materialistic or whatever. If you drive a nice car, I don't know, all those things. Well, I think that is to our detriment as individuals and as local bodies of Christ, as Christians in the world. I think we need to have a whole Bible view of money and the temptation to greed and trusting money, as real as those temptations are not the only concerns. And there's a positive view that we need to think about. So, for instance, just a side note, but I just saw another article today. I love X because I can read the headlines. And of course, by reading the headlines, I know exactly what all the stories are about and everything is true, right? I saw, y'all know who George Soros is. He is notorious these days for giving money to purchase prosecuting attorneys, district attorneys, people in powerful positions in the court systems, and his son apparently is taking over the use of his wealth for nefarious purposes. Well, I saw an X article that was saying, here's the new Soros, and I don't even remember his name. I don't know much about him, but they were saying he's very wealthy and he's putting all his money toward liberal, leftist, evil causes. And I think, where are the guys that care about righteousness? The rich guys who care about righteousness. What a difference we might be able to make if we had some successful businessmen who had the kind of money who would get behind politicians who care about justice and righteousness and counteract some of the evil pursuits. That's just one thing that comes to mind in the political milieu we live in now, but I'd like to see that. I'd like to be that. So Dale says, hard work may be biblical, but the fruits of it are worldly, apparently. Right? That's exactly the mindset, it seems like. All right, so we're going to look at 3 proverbs here, back to back, that Solomon wrote. By the way, if you're interested, my son was going to join us today. We're going to continue what we started a couple weeks ago, but he is sick. There's some stuff going around, and he caught it, so he's been in bed most of the last couple of days. So hopefully, Lord willing, next Friday, we'll get back and have him back with me. So we're going to look at some proverbs here and talk about money, and I'm going to read them and then we'll make some comments and see what we have to learn from rich King Solomon. So he says, one person is generous and yet grows more wealthy, but another withholds more than he should and comes to poverty. A generous person will be enriched, and the one who provides water for others will himself be satisfied. And then the third one here is, people will curse the one who withholds grain, but they will praise the one who sells it. So the first observation I want to make here is that what we call free market capitalism is assumed. And I would argue that it's assumed throughout the entire Bible. The idea of stealing requires personal possession. requires that there is private property for someone to take from you. So I'm a capitalist. I'm all for free market. I believe that is the way God designed civilization to be. And I think it's assumed here in buying and selling and that kind of thing. So just want to state that in the midst of our socialist threat to the West here in the U.S. And a lot of Christians seem to jump on that bandwagon, if not explicitly, implicitly, and often without thinking carefully about these things. So I think that's assumed here. And that last one, people will curse the one who withholds grain, but they will praise the one who sells it. You see what that's getting at? The assumption is there are times when you need to purchase grain, you need to purchase food. Not everybody, even in that day, was a farmer or a successful farmer. And if you have it and others need it, but you withhold it, you're going to be cursed. But if you sell it, they will praise you. Now think about the assumptions there. You have something that others want and need. Selling it is okay. The two verses before this talk about generosity, which we'll spend some time on, but selling what is needed is also generous and right and good. So what you have to offer, whether it is a service or a product or your time that can be a benefit to others, if they need it, I think the assumption here is it's okay to sell it. In fact, you should sell it, or else you'll be considered a miser and who knows, you're going to be cursed because you have something others need. Isn't that interesting? And this seems to push back against, again, our common Christian thinking about work. There's a mindset that is in a certain segment of our political landscape, certain agenda that creeps into Christianity so easily that being involved in business, buying and selling products, making a profit, that is somehow evil. And here, Solomon's assuming that if you have something others need and you aren't willing to sell it, you're going to be cursed. So sell it, and of course you're going to make a profit, assuming you sell it for more than it costs you. And that's a good thing because you're meeting a need. That's the thing about free market. If we could get the government out of it and get all the evil that has penetrated and just get back to a truly free market, that's a good thing. People need things and they will buy things. And then they'll have what they need. And then, if they're buying a food, that gives them the strength to go out and produce what they can produce to sell to somebody else. And that's how it works. And it's all a good thing. So if you have it and others need it, sell it. And you'll be praised. Is that different from the mindset do you ever hear pastors teaching on this? The godliness, the benefit, the wisdom of having a business, running a business, selling your products. I mean, your house is full of things you bought, including your house. Aren't you glad somebody was selling those things? And certainly if it's a need, you want to buy it. Business, profitability, providing services and goods that others need, those are all good things, and to provide those are wise, according to King Solomon. So I think we need to, I would love to see more Christian men in business for themselves. It's not the only way. Working for a business someone else started, that's good too. But we need to make sure we have the right view of these things. All right, so let's go back and catch the previous two verses to talk about generosity here. This is rich Solomon, remember, saying this. One person is generous, yet grows more wealthy. A person is generous, so he gives from his wealth, and he gets more wealth. Have you heard anybody in the New Testament speak like this? Anybody know what I'm talking about? Is there? I mean, this is Old Testament, right? This is the Old Covenant. This is Solomon. Does anybody in the New Covenant speak about being generous and growing more wealthy? Dale says, a true man of God would give it away for free. Yes, I've actually known a number of people who try to stress that working with a Christian shouldn't just be in the hopes of squeezing out more of them or more out of them. Yeah, that is the mindset we often have. I think it's awful that the reputation that a lot of Christian businessmen have is they're just bad businessmen. Their products. You know what I'm talking about? Do you ever hire someone because they got the little fish on their logo or whatever, and then later regret it because the service they provided was mediocre? And then you get much better service from the pagan company. How great would it be if Christians took care to have a great business and charge a fair price for it, make a profit? That's great. That wouldn't that be? I mean, the stereotype of Chick-fil-A, right? At least in times past, and maybe still is, that they were just exceptional. Their service, their quality of everything, top to bottom, was exceptional. They lead the industry in their drive-through experience and their profitability and all of that. And they were known for having Christian ownership. That there ought to be more companies like that. And it's not more godly to give things away for free. However, so that's business, right? As a business, run your business the way businesses are supposed to be run. Provide a good or service and make a profit. But as an individual, then, when you prosper, be generous. And Solomon observes that there's a person who is generous and then grows more wealthy, and another withholds more than he should and comes to poverty. In the Hebrew, this phrase is there's one who withholds more than what is right, which is interesting because Solomon is assuming that we are going to withhold some of our wealth. We did earn it and have a right to use it for ourselves, and we do have bills to pay and that kind of thing. But holding more than what is right may actually lead to poverty. Dale says, no, it's not a bad job. It's a Christian one. I appreciate Luther's quote on the Christian shoemaker. Yeah, be a good cobbler. I forget exactly how I phrased that. Good. So Paul said, you reap what you sow in the context of money. And the one who sows generously will reap generously. And there he's talking about giving. But think again about the metaphor. Right, so the metaphor is you've got your grain and you go out into the area and you throw out grain in large chunks. You just a handful, right? That's the sowing. The broadcasting is literally what it's talking about. And if you throw out seed on 1,000 acres, you're going to reap far more fruit than if you sow seed on 100 square foot plot. Well, to have the amount of seed to sow on 1,000 acres, that's wealth, right? So you've accumulated wealth, and now you plant lots of seeds on a huge portion, and you'll have even more wealth. And the idea is, as you grow in your wealth and you are generous with it, you'll become more wealthy. Why is that? I think for two reasons. I think God does love a cheerful giver, and he blesses our generosity. I think that's clear in both Testaments. I think that's the way God is. And secondly, I think there's this thing called, someone's called it the law of reciprocation, something like that, where, and this is not karma, this is not some, pagan belief, but the idea that just human nature, when you bless others, they tend to want to bless you back. And we like to be generous to those who have a generous mindset, a generous attitude. If you're a giving person, others want to be giving toward you. That's just sort of how humans work. It's what he says here. A generous person will be enriched, and the one who provides water for others will himself be satisfied. I think you're satisfied because you know you're doing what is right and pleasing to the Lord, but also I think it'll come back to you. Others will be generous to you. That's just kind of how we work. You give gifts to others, and they tend to want to give gifts back to you. I have a friend who the Lord has blessed him with some wealth and property, and he's turning them into, or has turned them into Airbnbs, rental properties, that kind of thing. And he's just been so generous. With one of his properties, there's a young couple that are heading overseas in a few months for missions. And as they are raising support, and they need a pretty significant amount of cash just to launch, and they don't have a lot of money. And my friend has blessed them with a place to live, a wonderful home, for several months for next to nothing, so they can store up cash and get ready to go and raise support and not have the burden of that right now. And the Lord continues to bless him financially and with satisfaction, and with others who want to come alongside and help. He had a lot of work to do on a property, and our whole fellowship was out there multiple times helping him. It's the Lord rewarding him for his generosity, and knowing the kind of guy he is, everyone else in our group wants to go help him when he needs help. Right? You can imagine that, right? Oh, he's blessing this couple, but he needs some work done on this property. Let's go out and help him because we want to help him because he's helping others. What a great testimony to a Christian. And I see signs that the Lord is going to pour more prosperity and blessing on him. And I have no doubt he's going to use that to be a blessing to others. And that's just one example. He also, one of these properties he's turned into an Airbnb, and he was looking to hire someone to clean it, and he paid them very, very well. He could have hired a different company more cheaply, but he wanted to bless this person with hiring her to clean it at a very generous rate. And he lost some profit, some money on that. Now he's not foolish. He's not in the red because of it, but he didn't make every single dollar he could have made because he wanted to bless this woman. And again, I just think the Lord is going to pile more blessing on him, because as he's faithful with little things, I believe the Lord's going to bless him with much. That's just one example that I know. How wonderful would it be if that's the situation we all found ourselves in? We are pursuing wealth, business, productivity, earning more. Not simply to say, look at me. Not simply to have more nice things, although there's nothing wrong with having more nice things. But having that wealth, accumulating it, gives us the ability to be generous with others, which just brings more reward to ourselves. So I would ask you to ask yourself, what is my relationship with money? Is it awkward for you to think about? Do you have a plan for increasing your wealth? I really think as Christians, especially as Christian men, we need to do this. I think the world, our communities need more Christian wealth. And I'll throw this out there. If you were with us in the Isaiah study a couple years ago or last year, whenever it was, I'm absolutely convinced that we are living in the time where the wealth of the nations is going to come to Zion. Isaiah 2. We're Zion. Christians, the church, we are the Zion. I think the wealth of the nations are coming to us because we're going to use it for good. We're going to build the kingdom of Jesus Christ, not only by preaching the gospel, but by doing good to others, healing the sick, releasing the captives, all the things that are true of what's going to happen when Messiah comes. That's happening now. We are ruling and subduing this earth. And if Christians become the primary movers and shakers of civilization, everybody prospers. Everybody wins. Everybody's prosperity grows, which redounds to glory to Christ, and we can do more good to others. So, where are you at with that? Do you need to rethink your relationship to wealth and money? And yes, avoid the sin, but embrace the righteous use and pursuit of money, and build up a storehouse so you can be generous. Paul says this in Ephesians 4. The thief is to stop thieving and do what? Labor hard, make more money so you can be generous, so you can have something to give. And enjoy God's good gifts. This is also, Paul says in 1 Timothy, when he talks about the warnings, the root of the love of money is the root of all evil, that kind of thing. He says, tell the rich in this world not to trust in their riches, but to enjoy the good gifts. It's okay. It's good to do that. And then look for opportunities to be generous. You might be surprised how it comes back to you in God's kindness and grace, from Him directly and through others. I look forward to future generations of wealthy Christians who use their wealth for the right things. It's a good setup. All right, we'll leave it there for the day. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you all back on Monday as we continue through our study of Romans. Take care.